Should be straight.
Just waiting to be
This
live,
way?
yeah. Much harder to do it up here.
I've already seen my, videos and pictures of that, it just shows it working this way.
All right, good luck. It's really up here.
Yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone. This is a regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment for Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and sending a copy to the Montclair Times, Star Ledger, and Herald News. This is a public hearing in which any members of the public are welcome to attend. The meeting agenda is available on the Montclair website, as is a link to the Township's YouTube channel, where the hearing can be viewed live or after the fact. The hearing is also being televised on Channel 34. And we have a change to the agenda to announce today. Application number 2889 for 204 Claremont Avenue, the Montclair Dental Spa LLC, has been postponed to October 16th, 2024. And I will call the roll. Chair Harrison.
Here.
Vice Chair McCullough.
Here.
Mr. Caulfield.
Here.
Mr. Church.
Here.
Ms. Harris is not present. Mr. Moore is not present. Mr. Simon is not present. Mr. Viera is not present. Ms. Grant, not currently here. Mr. Sullivan.
I'm here. What about 50 Gordonhurst Avenue?
Yeah.
Are we going to carry that? Well, it's listed on the agenda, so they have to renotice, correct?
So they didn't complete their notice in time, so we removed it from the agenda.
It's on the one that I'm looking at, that's why.
Apologies, we.
So Gordonhurst
And
is
Mr.
not?
Griffith,
That's on.
present.
They did the mail notice, completed that, but the newspaper notice was
Yeah.
published too late.
So we're only going to make them redo the newspaper notice, correct?
Okay,
So
Perfect.
what hearing date did we give them?
we had initially given them for today, and then now they're on for December 4th.
Okay, so if anybody's present for that and got the newspaper and got the 200-foot notice,
Right.
that's now on for December 4th, 7:30
Yes.
PM.
And
And
that's
other than the
application,
newspaper notice, there will not be any further mail notice of that application, and that's application 2898 for 50 Gordonhurst Avenue. And then just to be clear, on the 204 Claremont Avenue, there will not be any further notice for that hearing as well. We have the minutes of the September 4th meeting. I just have a couple of changes on page 2. This is actually multiples on the minutes and the Mountainside Park Terrace resolution and the tattoo studio. I think some members had to abstain because they were not present for the application or were not present at the prior meeting, the August 21st meeting. So if we could just correct that based on who was ineligible to vote. And then on page 3, decided that was okay. On line 96 at the bottom, replace the beginning of that sentence to read, questions were raised as to whether, and then continuing, the 7 townhomes would only generate 3 peak hour trips. Anyone else with any changes to those minutes? If not, someone want to move approval
I'll move approval of the minutes
of those changes?
with changes.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions?
Abstain.
We have the resolution for the Laurel Place property. I don't have any changes to that resolution. Does anyone else have any changes? If not, someone want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Any opposed? Then we have the request for an extension for the property at 1 Carolyn Road. This was a variance, I guess we granted 2 years ago for an addition to the house that's at the corner of Grove and Carolyn. I don't think there's any reason not to grant it. Nothing's changed, and unless there's any discussion, someone want to.
What's the extension is till when?
Yeah.
The extension is till,
It should be to June 1st, 2025.
yes.
I'll make the motion to grant the extension.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay. Next and only application is that of Vic and Mina Property Management LLC. This is for It's for property at 61 Mission Street. This is an application for variances for the construction of an accessory building in the rear of the lot containing 2 garage parking spaces on the ground floor and an accessory dwelling unit on the second floor, a rear addition to the existing 2-family dwelling and its conversion to a single-family dwelling. The property is located in R2 two-family zone, and variances are requested from Montclair Code Section 347-8D4 and Montclair Code Section 347-52 to allow an accessory building height of 24 feet 10 inches where a maximum of 15 feet is permitted from Montclair Code Section 347-84, Montclair Code Section 347-22F to allow an accessory building width of 25 feet 6 inches, a length of 27 feet 6 inches, where a maximum width and length of 24 feet is permitted, and for Montclair Code Section 347-8D9 to permit, because the proposed ADU would not comply with the New Jersey barrier-free subcode, and Montclair Code Section 347-20B1, because impervious coverage of 70% is proposed and a maximum lot coverage of 55% is permitted. Taxes paid, is the notice in order?
Yes.
Mr. Rubin, want to proceed?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Michael Rubin. I represent Vic and Mina Property Management LLC as applicant and owner of property located at 61 Mission Street, Block 311, Lot 18. Just as a note, the application was incorrectly identifies Vic and Mina Property Management as the applicant only rather than both the applicant and owner. They are both. It is both. I won't go over, I think the introduction was explains what's going on, but I just want to speak briefly about the variances, if I might. The project was designed to conform to the extent practical with the February 2023 zoning ordinance amendment, which created development standards governing the construction of accessory dwelling units in the RO, ROA, R1, and R2 zones. The regulatory scheme was codified in section 347-8 of the zoning ordinance, and it designated ADUs as permitted accessory uses in those zones. The ADU regulations set forth 13 standards governing the construction of ADUs, and the proposed development complies with all but 2. Section 8D4 requires ADUs to meet the requirements for accessory buildings set forth in section 347-22 of the ordinance. One of those standards in section 22F requires accessory buildings to be limited to a footprint of 24 feet by 24 feet, or a total of 576 square feet. The proposed 2-story accessory building with garage on the ground floor and living space, 1-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor, has a footprint of 25.5 feet by 27.5 feet, or 657 square feet. So a variance for the size of the accessory building is required. However, the ADU standards in section 347-8D3 permits ADUs to be 800 square feet. So there is an inconsistency between the 2 statutory schemes, or ordinance schemes, regulatory schemes. You have accessory buildings that are limited to 576 feet, but ADUs, which is the ordinance we are seeking approval under, permit 800 square foot buildings. Additionally, the R2 zone incorporates the 15-foot height limitation established by the R1 zone in section 347-46A1. The ADU standards include no height limitations, but does require 1 parking space. They don't say whether that parking space should be garaged or not. It just simply requires 1 on-site parking space. However, obviously the 15-story height limitation would permit only a 1-story building. And there's nothing in the ADU that restricts height in any way, either permitting or not permitting over garages, at least as to accessory buildings or detached buildings, which this will be. But we do need a height variance because the height of the 2-story building will be 25.5 feet, as opposed to the 15 feet normally permitted for accessory buildings. Another C variance may be required because, as designed, at least in the plans before you, the ADU unit will not be barrier-free. However, the architect will speak to that and how it is adaptable to that, and I'll leave that to him. That's not my expertise. Finally, there's a variance required for lot coverage of 70% with 55% permitted, but impervious coverage will be reduced through the reduction of a large parking area that is, or a large paved area that's currently in the rear yard, and reducing the driveway to a more normal and usable width. Unless the board has any questions, I have 2 witnesses. First is one of the 2 members of the applicant. His name is Victor Lopchana. And then my second witness, who is both an architect and professional planner, is Frank Milletto. And I intend to call Mr. Lopchana first unless there are any questions.
Proceed.
All right, while you're getting your witness ready, Ms. Casby, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and your position with the township.
Zainab Cosby, Assistant Planner.
Your witness is where?
She's gonna sit right here.
Okay,
Want to do us both? No, we'll do one at a time. One at a time.
Okay, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes.
State your name and address.
Baishan Circushan, 79 Elm Street, Montclair.
Okay, can you spell your first and last name, please?
Baishan, B-A-I-S-H-A-N, last name S-R-I-K-I-S-H-A-N.
We,
Sorry, that's the name. My last name.
that's okay.
That's my email.
I called you by your email?
Yeah, that's.
I see. Sorry, I've only known him by that name. I
Yeah,
think my,
actually,
I think my retainer in the.
That's
That's,
why I
that's my
asked.
middle name, Victor's my middle name.
I see.
Sean is my wife's maiden name.
I see.
That's what I have there.
I see. Ah,
Can you repeat your last name again then?
Circus Sean.
Circa Sean?
what is your relationship to the applicant owner?
I'm sorry?
What is your relationship to the applicant owner? Are you a member of the LLC?
Yes, me and my wife own the LLC.
Okay, and the LLC is the owner of the property, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And when did you buy the property? When did the
May of
LLC?
2023.
And when you bought the property, do you have any relationship to the property in terms of occupying it or have knowledge of or a relationship with the owner?
Yes, so I'm living there, just need more space, that's why I'm converting the two into a one family. And Miss Livingston is gonna stay on site with us, and I just need somewhere to give her some space.
So currently it's a two-family unit,
Family, yes.
and there's a unit on the ground floor and there's a unit on the second floor, correct?
Yes.
And you live on the second floor?
No, I'm on Elm Street right now.
Okay, you're now on Elm Street, but did you used to live on the second floor?
No,
Did you ever live in the building?
no,
Okay. Now, are there two tenants currently in the building?
yes,
Okay. And is the former owner one of them?
yes,
Okay, and the idea that you have is to turn the two-family into a one-family and build an accessory dwelling unit over the two-family, over a two-car garage in the rear, correct?
correct.
And who will live in that apartment?
Miss Maya Livingston.
I see. And so you've made arrangements to allow her to continue to live on the property even though you have bought the house, the property from her, correct?
Yes,
Now, who's gonna live in the house once it's converted to a single-family dwelling?
me and my wife and I have 4 daughters and a son.
And the reconfiguration or reconstruction of the interior of the main dwelling, what is going to result from that work that you're going to do? Will there be a kitchen and a living area on the ground floor?
Yes, so it's the living area on the ground, on the first floor, bedroom's gonna be upstairs, and we're extending the kitchen a little bit with some more room.
Currently, there's just a one-bedroom apartment on the downstairs and a one-bedroom
upstairs, correct.
And you're gonna convert that into a 3-bedroom house with living area on the ground floor and a 3-bedroom unit on 3 bedrooms upstairs,
On the
correct?
second floor,
And there'll be 1 bathroom upstairs, correct?
yes,
And one of the bedrooms will be a master bedroom, correct?
correct.
And that will open up onto a balcony which will be built over the first floor addition that you propose, correct?
Correct.
And what is the purpose of the first floor addition?
The first floor addition is to expand the kitchen, it's very small, I have a large family, I need a little more space.
I have no other questions.
Mr. McCullough, do you have any questions?
Yeah. So, Mr. Circashon, right? Okay. You indicated that your intent is then for this to be your primary residence.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the time frame? When do you anticipate being able to make it your primary residence?
Well, it's been going for some time now, so it's up to, the approval and the construction, obviously, I would say within a year or so.
You have, the design calls for, there's a bedroom in the basement?
No,
What did I see down in the basement? Let's look at this again. I remember what I saw. What is-
I think it's shown on the plans, but long ago that should have been changed.
That was
That was
adjusted.
eliminated a long time ago in our, but somehow I missed that when it was filed.
Okay,
There
so,
was a narrative thing, there was an escape window being installed in the
Right.
basement and planned to be used as a bedroom.
Yeah, but now it's not. It's gonna be used as storage.
Okay.
That was originally, and I told them I didn't think that was a very good idea, and it was supposed to have been changed. I missed that before it was filed, so that could be in the condition of approval that there will be no basement bedroom in the basement.
okay, so we'll certainly request that. So that the basement will only be used at this point for storage purposes, that's the intent.
Yes.
There are a number of procedural requirements, deed recordings and annual filings that they're all contained in section 347-8E, and you'll go over those with your client, you'll comply with those.
Yes, and there's an additional one right at the beginning that requires an affidavit, which will also be recorded with, as part of resolution compliance.
That he will live on the property.
That's correct, that he will live on the property. It's a requirement of the ADU to record it.
And I guess I'm somewhat unclear, how long do you have to live on the property?
I'm not the interpretive person for the ordinance.
I just,
He needs to live in the, he needs to continue to live in the property, or else it becomes not eligible.
That's correct.
Yeah,
but after you build the accessory dwelling unit, then
but if the accessory dwelling unit becomes vacant, is he then, as long as it remains vacant, he doesn't have to live on the property anymore? He just can't use the accessory dwelling unit.
you can't rent it out to a different
Correct.
family.
Correct.
Okay. That sounds kind of hard to manage.
So just staying, it's getting back to the plan now. I noticed that you had chimneys that are being removed.
I think you're gonna need to talk to the architect about that.
Okay, so, okay.
Can I get a clarification on the residency requirement? I understand it to mean that he stays, the owner of the property in the principal house has to remain there as long as he has the unit rented.
I agree with that.
That's what it says.
Right.
That's correct.
So, but there's no limit on it. Am I correct?
As far as I can tell, no. And he can sell,
Yeah, how
as
does
long
he
as
sell
he
that?
sells to someone who's owner occupying the main
So, yeah, he
building.
could sell,
Yeah,
but
that's- Could be
It
a
has to be
top.
owner occupied. The
That's a
main dwelling
condition.
has to be owner occupied.
that's conditioned on the
That's
sale.
correct.
The buyer has to sign.
I think there's even a deed restriction requirement
There is.
that has to be filed. So, and all that will be done. And, you know, obviously, resolution compliance will ensure that all that is complied with before they're gonna get permits.
Okay. No questions.
You own property on one of the buildings on the other side of the property we're talking about, 61. What is,
Yes,
you own two properties, or do you own properties on both sides of this building, or just the one side?
just the one side.
Just the one side. And so in terms of the parking, how do you sort of envision that being done, since you're no longer gonna have large of a parking area? Based on the presentation of your application, there were a lot of vehicles that were involved in this space. Can you just speak to that in terms of what your intentions are?
So all the vehicles that's there, they're not there on a daily basis. I have a few things going on. It's only gonna be two at the most, 3 vehicles there. The reason for the garage, I have a very expensive car that Element beat up, and I would like to park it inside.
And the driveway, is that a shared driveway between those two properties?
No.
It is, the driveway only belongs
It
to
only belongs
61?
61.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Church, anything further?
No, I have no further.
Mr. Griffith?
I have 3 issues. I think they're more directed to you than to him.
I'll do the best I can.
Fair enough, me too. The 24 by 24 is referred to from the ADU. It refers to they say refer to
Right.
the district you're in, and then you go there and you read it. I've lived it myself.
Right.
All right, the code is clear, it does say it, it's just a little harder to find. It's not as obvious as it could be, but the code's clear.
Yeah, it says, yes, but there's also a provision of the ADU standards that permits an 800 square foot living unit.
If you're in the right, if you're in the right zoning district, and in that part of the code, it tells you to check with the zoning district. When you go to the zoning district, it says if you're in the, an R1, R2, you can't have a maximum length of the beyond 24 feet in either direction.
No, let me just, if I may respond to that.
Yeah.
D3 says, in no case shall the ADU's living area be more than 40% of the primary dwelling unit up to a maximum of 800 square feet, nor less than 300 square feet, and no more than 3 rooms excluding kitchen and bathroom. The next section, 4, says, detached ADU shall comply with the requirements for accessory structures in the applicable zone district and the requirements of Montclair Code 34722. 22F says it can only be 24 by 24.
Yeah.
So you have 4, which says it can be 24 by 24, but you have 3 that says it could be 800 square feet.
Yeah, but they're
Okay.
different. One's a square footage measurement and the other is a individual height and length, width and length measurements.
Yeah, but if, if it's on one floor, it's gonna have a footprint of 800 square feet.
The planner's memo indicates that you need the variance from D4 for the width of 25.5 feet and length of 27.5 feet, where maximum width and length of 24 is permitted.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not disputing that we need a variance for that. But what I'm saying is that I think that there's a somewhat inconsistent provision here that says that the ADU can be 800 square feet, which obviously is larger than 24 by 24.
And what I'm saying is, I agree that it isn't as clearly presented as it could be, but it is clearly presented. It is, when I read it, the facts are the facts, and it's 24 by 24, that's it. I disagree with your assertion that the code is unclear and not succinct.
Okay, well, nevertheless, the
I don't think
applicant
there
has requested the variance from that provision.
Right. We
Okay.
have, it's in our
Yeah.
notice, we have requested it.
Okay.
We
but
agree.
I'm saying it's, and then the other thing is the height. So the other issue is the height, so, it's 15 feet, that's really clear, they know
Correct.
what you're supposed to do, you're saying, well, no, but how about 24 feet,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
And I guess my question to you is what is the hardship? Why would we?
Well, hold on, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Right now, we've got the first witness who's a fact witness. The applicant's attorney, Mr. Rubin, has indicated and identified the variances that are being sought. There will be a subsequent witness, Mr. Mileto, who Mr. Rubin identified, who will act as their architect and planner, and he'll give the proofs as to why they think they're entitled to the variances. So after we
Okay.
hear that witness,
Fair
you
enough.
can then ask him the questions as to whether the
Thank you
proofs are
for the
adequate.
clarification, I didn't know. That would apply to lot coverage too?
Correct.
I have no other questions.
Mr. Caulfield?
No questions.
I want to understand about the driveway because I've seen cars parked in the rear of the adjacent house, and clearly the only way they can get there is using the driveway. But you're saying I understand there's no easement allowing that, but
That's just recently, it hasn't been like that. Those are my toys, that's the actually TVs, is that what you're referring to? That's parked on the other side?
I mean, I've seen different things on I've been there a couple different days, but
Yeah, those are my vehicles, in and out, but they're not there for an operation,
but you own both properties now?
yes.
Okay, so I guess, would you have an objection of our requiring you to allow access to the rear of the adjacent property on your driveway?
That's something I would have to speak to my attorney and my wife about, just if I'm just seeing a permanent easement.
It's just, this is a neighborhood where there is not a lot of parking, and
Premium.
you have clearly space in the rear of that yard to provide for parking. I mean,
Now,
don't
if
have-
we do agree to do an easement, is that removable?
You should talk to your attorney about that. That's not the easiest question in the world to answer. And I don't want to mislead you as to the likelihood of that or not likelihood of that. Okay, let's see how this goes. We can,
Let's see how this goes.
are there any members of the public who have questions for this witness? Again, this is just to ask questions of this witness who is just a fact witness. Okay, Mr. Rubin, you want to call Mr. Polito?
Yes. Go back and sit. Right, please come up, be sworn in.
Thank you. You swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
So help me God.
Just state your name and address, please.
Frank Mileto, Mileto, 14 Beaverbrook Drive, Long Valley, New Jersey. That's where I live.
You can,
I have a summer home too, but
that's
depends on the
sufficient.
weather.
Mr. Miletta, will you give the board benefit of your educational and professional background?
Sure. I'll do it as quick as I can.
No, nobody's rushing it.
I do. Graduated Clifton High School in 1960. I went to New York Institute of Technology in 64, graduated in 1964. I had a sabbatical, I'll call it sabbatical. The military got a hold of me during Vietnam, and I spent some time in the military, and I'm a veteran of that terrible war. They're all terrible, but some are worse than others. Anyway, I made it out of there, and then I went and got my license, took the exam, passed the exam in 74, and then in 78, I went and took the advantage of becoming a professional planner. At that time, it was for reciprocity. All architects were accepted as a planner because it's silly not to. I mean, you can't put pencil to paper until you looked at the ordinances and become almost a planner. You gotta become a zoning officer. Anyway, then I was employed, self-employed for a while, and then I was employed by a company called Prime Motor Inns, which was the second largest hotel company in the country. It owned Howard Johnson's, it owned Holiday Inns, and it was a large company, and I was head of the construction department there. After that tenure, I became a zoning officer in the city of Clifton for about 18 years. I became the construction official in the city of Clifton, and then I became the acting city manager. When the city manager in Clifton decided to retire but not retire, he got sick. If you get sick on retirement, you get the full benefit of your pension. If you retire intentionally, you get half of your sick time. So for 2 years, he got sick, and I had to do that job as well as zoning officer and construction official. It was an interesting time. I just found one thing was that you surround yourself with good, honest people, it's easy at the top. Surround yourself with turkeys, you've got a troubled day. It's terrible. So fortunately, Clifton had the Faulkner Act, which is allowed the city manager to do all the hiring and firing of police, fire, city employees. He acted as the administrator. City mayor and council in that act were policy setters. They set the policy, but the city manager had the operations. I did that until it became a little political, and then Frank Mileto left. I resigned because I could not handle being manipulated by politics. And that was the end of that career because I couldn't do it. I could not listen to the mayor and council. They call themselves the Big Four. I'll give you the whole poop on it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we need the whole.
All right, well, I'm not gonna get that.
And then you opened your own firm, correct?
Yeah,
And you've been practicing as an architect and a
Well, I
planner?
practiced even before that. Since I had my license, as a construction official, certainly I couldn't do work in Clifton. And the Department of Community Affairs, who set all the rules up, at first said, you can't work in any place in the state of New Jersey on their rules. And I went to the legislature and I said, you wanna get rid of the best people for the jobs? Plumbing inspector has to be a licensed plumber. He's gonna give his license up? That's crazy.
Right. Let's focus on your credentials, okay?
Well,
I mean, so.
I'm just
and-
giving the
and so-
history of what happened.
Have you appeared before boards in the state of New Jersey as both an architect and a planner?
Yes,
And are your licenses current?
yes, both licenses in New Jersey, and I'm licensed in 28 other states.
I asked if he be
We'll
accepted.
accept him.
Thank you.
Enough advertising?
Were you retained by the applicant to design in addition to this, to the existing dwelling and to construct a two-story
Yes,
accessory dwelling unit over a garage?
correct.
Could you please describe the property under its existing conditions?
Currently, there's an existing two-family dwelling on the property in the front, occupied by the owner, and in the rear is a vacant area that can be established an existing or a new accessory building, detached accessory building.
The rear yard is largely paved, correct,
Yes,
currently?
almost 100% paved, yes.
Now, in terms of the addition, let's focus first on the addition to the existing dwelling.
Yes.
It's gonna be converted from a two-family to a one-family,
Yes.
correct? And how is that going to occur? What changes, interior changes do you intend to make to have that happen?
Well, first we had to do a little expansion on it to satisfy the client because he had a large family and the kitchen was very small, each of them. So on the first floor, we expanded the kitchen and living area. On the second floor, to add additional bedrooms, we added above that 2 stories, second floor, because it has,
There's no second floor addition, is there?
no,
No.
No.
All you're doing is reconfiguring upstairs,
Right.
correct?
that's it,
Okay. And creating 3 bedrooms, correct?
correct,
Where now there are only 2.
correct.
Or actually only 1. A living room, a dining room, a bed, it's a single unit with 1 bedroom, a bathroom, a living room, a dining room, and a kitchen, correct?
That's it, yes,
And you're gonna take the kitchen out upstairs, and you create 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, correct?
correct,
And downstairs is gonna be only living area and no bedrooms, correct?
correct.
And the basement, there'll be no bedrooms in the basement, correct? Okay. Now, the addition that you're, how large is that addition? Is it gonna, what's it gonna look like? Is it gonna match the existing dwelling?
Absolutely, you're gonna use all the same materials, same colors, to blend in with the existing building. We're gonna do that with the accessory building as well.
And the addition will have a flat roof as opposed to a peak roof, correct? And the purpose of that is so there'll be a balcony outside the bedroom that faces the rear of the house, correct? And that is the master bedroom, correct?
Correct.
And the only way to get to that balcony will be through that bedroom, correct?
Absolutely.
And
No stairway to it.
no stairway to exterior stairway, correct? And it'll have code required railings around it,
Of
correct?
course, absolutely. As shown on the plan.
Okay. Now let's talk about the accessory dwelling unit. Tell me how that was designed.
Well, of course, I had to interview the client and try to satisfy his needs. And his needs were to put in a building that had a garage because it does have some valuable cars that he wants to store there. And it's safer, it's better, it's out of sight. And secondly, he needed a second floor for to accommodate the living space upstairs.
For the former owner who currently lives on the property, correct?
He's here.
And in terms of the design, is it a 1-bedroom unit
Yes,
and has 3 rooms, correct?
yes,
As required, and so it's consistent with the ordinance in that,
Yes.
in that respect, correct?
absolutely, yep.
All right. And how many square feet is it?
Usable both floors? No.
No, just the living area, the living area.
676 square.
I knew that. 676 square feet, I'm sorry. He's my associate architect.
And there'll be an internal stairway to get to the
Yes,
unit?
yes,
In through the garage, correct?
yes, correct.
And will it be a what's called a man door to get from outside into the garage in addition to the two garage
That's
doors?
code required, absolutely.
And that man door will provide access to the stairway, correct?
Correct. An exterior.
And the exterior. And the building is setbacks, and the accessory dwelling building will be set back 6 feet from both side lot lines and as required by the ordinance, correct?
Yep.
So the deviations with respect to this is the size of it, correct?
Yes.
Explain why you designed it, why it's not 24 by 24 and is larger than that.
In order to accommodate the client's requirements and wishes.
In terms of the size of the dwelling unit, do you think that if you made it smaller, it would be a suitable dwelling unit?
No.
Why?
Because it has to have a minimum square footage per person. For the bedroom, it has to be 150 square feet right over the top. Then you gotta provide closets and cooking area and living area. And in order to make it a suitable dwelling unit, that's where I came up with that. We've designed a lot of apartments, I've designed a lot of hotels, and it can't be much smaller than that. And what I've done meets the needs of today's living.
I have no more architectural, what I do, as you said, the exterior of the accessory dwelling unit building, the accessory building would match
Yes.
the main,
They'll all
Principal
blend together, the same material,
same
color.
fenestration, same windows,
Right.
same roofing material. The pitch on the accessory dwelling unit is similar, of the roof of the accessory dwelling is similar to the pitch on the main dwelling unit,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
I have no other architectural questions for him. If we want to pause now, before he puts on
Yeah,
his
it probably makes sense to, Mr. McCullough, do you have any questions about the architectural?
Yes, I do, thank you. So, I'll begin with the primary residence, the main building, all right?
Correct.
So, I'd like to understand some of the rationale for this. Principally, looking at the second floor plan, you have the balcony, which extends over the kitchen, which is a new extension, right?
Correct.
And the kitchen is 20 feet, and the balcony is 20 feet, but the master bedroom itself is 14 feet 1 inches. What's the rationale for the balcony to be so large in comparison to the master bedroom or the primary bedroom?
That was the wishes of the client, and it didn't violate anything, so I gave him what he wanted. He
And
wanted a balcony out there where he could have his family out there and enjoy the outdoors.
but the only access is through the master bedroom.
Correct, but only family members will go through there. Not gonna invite company, family there. He's a family guy, 4 girls and one son.
This second floor also seems to allow for only 1 bathroom for the second floor, with the master bedroom and 2 additional bedrooms. Why not design the space so that there would be more than 1 bathroom on this floor?
The client felt that that was adequate for his needs, and that's what I filled his bill. I didn't dictate what he should do or not do to his building. Each client has their own wishes and needs, and I listen to him and try to produce what he desires. I can't force myself on him and say you should.
Well, I'm not asking you to force yourself on anybody, I'm just simply asking.
Right, I
In
understand.
terms of the design of this space, functionality of this space, yes, of course, it's designed for the owner. And, you know, I mean, the zoning board also looks at, you know, the longevity of the property also, which means not only for this client, but also someone who might succeed him in the property, right? So it would be a consideration in terms of the number of bathrooms on the space. Can you, I started to ask the owner about removal of chimneys. Can you speak to that, please?
They're gonna be kept. They're gonna leave the chimneys, they're gonna be maintained and certified that they are active and safe.
So that's a deviation from the plan then, because the plan indicates that chimneys are going to be removed.
They're gonna be removed.
That's what it says. Existing chimneys to be removed.
My,
A1. On A1. It looks like it's 2 that are being removed.
that's a change. They're not required because of the kind, you know, new equipment in the building doesn't require those kinds of changes. So I apologize for misspeaking.
So they are going to be removed.
They're gonna be removed, yes, sir. Whatever's on his plan is gonna be done.
And so what would be the rationale for the chimneys being removed?
The reason?
Yeah.
That it's taking space in the house that's not necessary. Chimneys are kind of old fashioned for equipment that is oil burning and so on. Now we have very high efficiency equipment. They vent through a plastic pipe on the sidewall, no more chimneys.
Then you have the third, the attic. So the attic is just for storage, is that correct?
Yes,
And is it possible for that space, since there is a stairwell going up there, is it possible for that to be converted into living space at some point?
well, the stairway would not comply with the ordinance for access. It's just for storage. Very steep and
Narrow?
narrow, so it couldn't comply for that, no.
And can you tell me what would be the height of the ceiling in the storage, in that third?
Third level?
Yeah, what would be the height of the ceiling, please?
They're at 4 foot.
This might just be distances.
Those are 4 foot high, yeah. The side yard, the walls would be 3 feet or so at the gable end.
Mhm.
And then it goes up to maybe 5 feet with the pitch of the roof.
Okay.
They're not even, you know, they're not adaptable for living purpose.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's not enough space there for.
The wall would
To
be
be
less than
converted.
5 feet, yeah.
Okay. All right, then, if we can then turn to the accessory unit. So, the question was raised about the dimensions of this ADU and why, based on your design, it could not be smaller, could not comply with the 24 foot requirement. And you described it as a unit that had a kitchen space, living space, bedroom space, bath space. It does have 2 bedrooms. I'd just like to hear a little bit more from you in terms of, again, what your rationale is for why that variance should be permitted in terms of this exceeding what other dimensions that have been set by the township for ADUs.
Well, there's a discrepancy there that I couldn't quite follow both. And that's why we're here, to present it to the zoning board. That's what zoning boards do, they vary.
So it's just because you,
Well, their minimum, if you look at the dimensions, of the bedroom,
Mhm.
it's 8 feet, and, that's discounting the closet. The other one is 9 by 8, they're very minimal bedrooms.
mhm.
And although there's 2 bedrooms, there's only one occupant, but the other one's for guests, I'll call them, relatives.
There was a question that was raised by the planning office about handicap accessibility. What's your response to that?
If required, we will put a chairlift on the stair.
And the stairwell that you designed is wide enough that it could accommodate a
Yes, sir.
stair lift?
3'1" wide, and this, the chairs fold down.
Right,
and they're
right.
not easy. Yes, is the answer. Comply.
Yeah, I'd like to request that the stair lift be a requirement. And then this is, it's a 2-car garage, and would the zoning board be, would it be fair for us to assume that one garage is for the primary owner and one garage is for the occupant of the ADU, or both?
Yes.
If required.
Yes, that's a fair assumption.
That is a fair assumption.
That is a fair
Okay.
assumption.
No further questions at this point.
Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have one. Maybe I don't see it, it may not be here, but, is there another, exit to the ADU other than the front?
There are egress windows in bedrooms as required by the code. So that's the second means of egress under the building code.
So in case of fire, it
That's the
becomes,
egress window for rescue, basically, Firemen have made that trade years ago, said no more fire escapes, but give me an egress window that I can climb into and rescue people with a backpack on my back.
so barring, if a fire ensued in that building, there'd be only one egret or, one way out for the resident before the fire department goes.
It's gonna be, it has to have a complete fire interconnected 110 system of smoke and CO protection systems. It will be fully compliant with that requirement.
So the ordinance says that egress windows
Our state law
state law says, okay, thank you,
must have egress window in every bedroom,
thank you.
at least one.
I have no question.
Mr. Griffith, do you have any questions?
While we're talking about egress windows, I'll say that the windows I see, not to mention, but they don't look like they're big enough, they're wide enough, they're not, there's a maximum height from the floor to the window sill. You can't exceed that, I think.
44 inches of maximum height. Right? The height
On the
from the floor to the sill of the window, maximum height would be 44 inches.
I don't think that's correct. I think it's much lower than that. I think it's in the neighborhood of 24 inches. But that's,
Want to bet?
no.
I'm just kidding.
No, I don't,
I mean,
no,
the
I'm
code
saying I don't
says-
think.
The code says 44 inches maximum height.
I will refer to the code and say.
Okay, yeah, we gotta comply with the building code, period.
Okay. So I'm looking for, in each of these issues, so the 24 by 24, I mean, yeah, it's a tight space, but you're very close to complying with it, that you don't. So I don't, you know, you're saying that your reason for not complying is that it's not big enough, but you're within a foot and a half, and you're very close. Why not comply, 24 by 24? From that point of view, that's my one question to you. What's the hardship here?
It doesn't necessarily have to be a hardship to get a variance. It could be benefits outweigh the detriments. Under
And I
C2.
suppose Mr. Mileno is gonna get to his planning testimony
That's
next,
correct.
right?
He
Yeah.
steals my thunder all the
But
time.
at least you did testify as to the dimensions, and the
It's
question is,
minimal.
could you make it smaller? And the answer is yes, right?
You put a doghouse there, sure.
That's the easy way to answer the question.
I
Yeah.
understand, yes.
Okay, and then we're looking forward to your planning testimony to see what the basis for the variance request is.
Okay, so is this also relevant to planning testimony, the 15-foot height, like?
I think it's gonna be the same answer, and I think we're now gonna wait for Mr. Mileto to get to his planning testimony.
Yeah, okay, and then the last one is gonna be the lot coverage.
Reducing it. You can't get rid of it, but reducing it.
So you could, in order to respond to what I understand that your client wants, is 2 dwelling units on the property with garage. You could just add on to the main house, have 2 dwelling units, and put a garage in the back and comply with all the code requirements. No?
I haven't studied that. This is what was allowed by the ordinance. We followed that. I thought it was a great idea for the city of Montclair to do that, to make housing available to people that don't need a big house or a big apartment. It's a wonderful idea. There's a few communities that done it, and this is one of the first. The 15-foot height, as you know, and that's the height limit was in Clifton as well. And that reason it was they didn't want a second floor on those garages. No living space up there. They wouldn't allow it. That was the purpose of the 15-foot height. This allows to live up there. It provides another dwelling unit to meet the needs. And it's a wonderful thing to do, is allow a homeowner to go from a bigger house that she lives in to live comfortably on the same piece of property, in the same neighborhood. It's a wonderful thing. The tenant deserves it. She's a wonderful person. I met her. That's why. It's a good ordinance, I think.
It's the height issue. The reason why it's so tall is because of the floor plans, because you put it on top of a parking garage, right?
And the garage in it. Again, it cleans up the property, otherwise you're gonna be parking on the grade, cars are gonna be there, exposed, and it's just a good thing, garages, but, it's encouraged by the residential site improvement standards, the garages in, it's encouraged to have parking. It pushes me in that direction, and it was the wishes of the client, basically. He wanted a garage, he has an expensive car, he wants to put in a garage. I don't blame him.
Thank you.
Mr. Caulfield, do you have any questions?
Yes, the bump out in the back of that garage, why is that? What's the thought about that process there?
Oh, that, to allow for storage in front of it, of the car, you know, so you can put the car comfortably
Can he
in
get
there
2 cars
and
in
still
there?
have some
Could he get
storage.
2 cars in there?
I'm sorry?
Could he park 2 cars in there,
No,
back to back, you don't think, 27 feet?
no.
A regular space is 9 by 18,
Mm-hmm.
so most cars are at least 15 feet.
He does own other vehicles other than cars, right? But maybe he could fit in
I
there?
don't think so.
Okay, well, there's like some dune buggy or something. On that plan that I just showed you there, it says the total coverage is 794 square feet, is that correct? Is that what you're seeing on that, on your plans?
Which plan?
A0.2,
Which page?
A2. On the accessory total coverage.
Keep going. Keep going.
654 square feet, yes.
Okay. 600 square feet, okay, okay,
57 square feet.
Yeah. Okay, and
Access from total coverage 795.
the whole building itself with that's what that's for the
That's that
accessory
little
unit,
bump
correct?
on the
Yeah,
back,
but-
yes.
Yeah,
One
that's
story.
with that, okay. Okay, thank you.
Just trying to understand what Mr. Caulfield, so the total first floor coverage is 794 square feet, and the size of the ADU is 657 square feet, is that correct?
Correct.
How many parking spaces are provided?
2.
And what is the RSIS requirement for this?
There's more than 2 parking spaces. There's 2 garage parking spaces.
Right, then the RSIS permits double parking in front of the garage as well.
I'll try my question again. How many spaces does the RSIS require?
You could park more than 4, but you can park some on the side driveway.
I-
How many does RSIS require for this lot?
For the one-family house, 2. And for the ADU, it's 2-bedroom, 1,
1.8, correct.
1.8, so they need 4, and we can comply. The plan is indicated that to the planner.
The question I have, I understand RSIS would allow one space behind the other.
Right,
But which of the spaces in the garage would be for the ADU? You have, the one side, you have it's a straight shot in. The other side, you kind of have to curve around.
make a K-turn, yeah.
And which of the spaces would be for the ADU?
As I said,
I don't know if that's been determined yet.
Well, the issue I have in terms of the stacked spaces, I don't want the stacked car to be behind the ADU unit space. 'Cause
that will be the one straight ahead.
okay, you have to come up so the mic will pick you up.
Yeah, it'll be the one straight ahead when you pull in, the parking, straight in,
That's for the ADU?
that's for the ADU.
Why don't you go on to your, okay, are there any members of the audience who have questions on the architectural plans? Yes, come forward. State your name and address. And again, this is just to ask questions and
Sarah Avery, 25 Irving Street in Montclair. So the question that I had is, first of all, it was my understanding that in other wards in Montclair, that the ADU could not be on top of the garage. Is that correct?
well, the zoning isn't by wards, it's by zoning district. There are R2 zones in several wards of the town.
But in general, the ADU, it was my understanding based on, some.
There's a distinction, there's a section that deals with carriage houses. And then there's a new section that was enacted last year that deals with ADUs. And the ADU doesn't talk anything about being on top of or not,
Right.
other than the 15-foot limitation that is incorporated by reference to section 22.
All right, well, I'll get to the heart of the matter.
Well, you're just gonna ask questions now, right? You're not gonna make a statement.
Well, the question is, how many variances are being requested? I guess that's number one. Only 2? Seems like more than 2.
There are 3. The height and size of the accessory dwelling unit. And he said he's gonna comply with barrier-free subcode and then lot coverage. which is an existing nonconformity that is being reduced.
So the second question is, you're saying the chairlift interior,
No, no, interior,
you said the stairs were exterior?
there's interior and chairlift is interior. Oh,
Okay. And then, what is the size of the other ADUs that have been approved by the zoning board?
We have not
We're not
approved
done.
any ADUs.
First one.
We have not had any applications for an ADU prior to this one.
Under the new ordinance?
Correct.
Correct.
As a, for adjustment.
Before the zoning board was her question.
So, so.
But they've
in
been
other
submitted
words-
to the building department to review.
I have no knowledge.
Right, it's not our purview to know.
So this is
But they
the
could have
first
been.
ADU that requires a variance.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other members of the audience with questions for this witness? Want to proceed with your planning testimony?
Mr. Milano, you can proceed with the planning testimony.
okay. I'm gonna follow, your competent planner's report because it makes it very clear what we're doing. The site description is the property located on the west side of Mission Street between Bloomfield Avenue, Elmwood Avenue. The property contains 2.5-story, two-family dwelling and parking in the rear yard. Each floor contains one bedroom unit, driveway extends along the south side, and encompasses a larger parking area in the back that will be reduced. Fences are all compliant, we're not requesting any fences. To get to the meat of it, the master plan lists the following objectives. I'm just taking the quote this right from her report because it's very good. Following objectives and recommendations to address the lack of affordable and diverse housing types in Montclair Township. Accessory dwelling units provide an alternative single family which comprises the majority of 53% of Montclair's housing units. That's in the 2020 census. The second thing is it's a place that encourages creation of affordable housing units while increasing the total supply. And it enables a continuity of diversity of housing types as valued by throughout Montclair. Existing mixed housing types to fit needs of all household non-family senior, low-income people. Ensures the provisions of affordable housing and expands the supply of housing for senior citizens, which is dearly needed. Zoning standards, ADU shall be permitted on a lot containing in the RO, and R1 and 2 zones. We are in the zone, therefore it is a permitted use in that zone. The owner will comply with an affidavit on the residency of the occupant. The requirements are met. In no case of the ADU living area be more than 40% of that of the primary dwelling unit. We comply with that. The detached unit will have garage, the requirements of parking. The ADU shall comply with existing township ordinance, the zoning ordinance of the New Jersey Uniform Construction Code. No choice but to do that. Requirements are met. Should be no more than one ADU per lot. That's met. The ADU shall be used only for residential purposes. One family will be required, and that is, will be met. Adaptive use of ADU, fully paid.
This is an adaptive reuse
That's
project.
been not a.
Number 9, you skip number 9.
Number 9. Oh, chairlift, yes, we're going to put chairlift in when required, if required.
Okay, keep going, next page.
The ADU is attached to the principal one, two-family dwelling, it's not currently anymore. With respect to new construction, external electricity, the ADU will not be face the same street as the external entrance to the principal house, that's met. The minimum rental term, 6 months, the requirements for tenants will be met. At least one off-street parking space shall be provided for the ADU, will be met. No window in the ADU faces another residential property located within 6 feet, not applicable. The building variance Montclair code, which establishes the maximum impervious coverage of 55%. The impervious coverage for the proposed project is 70%. Total impervious coverage will be reduced to reduce the amount of pavement on the site.
As to that last issue, if you turn to page 6 of the report, and under project description, and the second to last bullet, it talks about the reduction in impervious coverage. Page 6 of the report, under project description, second to last bullet.
Additional, part of the existing macadam asphalt driveway with and concrete pad is proposed to be removed. The area removed measures 2,186 square feet. Substantial amount.
Do you think that's a substantial amount in the reduction of lot coverage?
It is, and still be able to drive into the parking.
However, there's still variance required, correct?
Yes,
And as to lot coverage, one of the reasons that there's a lot coverage issue is because
it exists.
it's a detached garage, correct? And so you need a driveway to reach an attached garage, and that driveway runs nearly the full length of this lot, correct?
Yes.
The full depth of this
Has
lot.
been narrowed down to the minimum.
Right, and if there is no garage built, then he has an existing condition with a parking lot in the backyard
Worse.
that will have 2,186 square feet more of impervious surface than what's being proposed by this project, correct?
Yeah, it's a benefit for way outweigh any detriment.
Right, now, as to the dimensions of the accessory dwelling unit building, the garage, and the excessive height, and the excessive square footage of the footprint, is it your position that the benefits of building it larger outweigh the detriments?
Absolutely.
And that's a C2 variance, correct?
Correct.
And for C2 variance, you don't need to prove hardship, correct? And tell me why the benefits, or tell the board why the benefits of allowing a larger accessory building than what might otherwise be permitted by ordinance is better than a smaller building.
Well, I don't know who drew the ordinance. My opinion is it doesn't allow for a very comfortable dwelling unit following the code precisely. My bedrooms, if you look at the floor plan and layout of it, are minimal. 8 by 9s are minimal bedrooms. Closets are required, bathroom is required, small cooking area, kitchen is required. I squeezed it down as much as I could and still tried to meet the client's wishes and without hurting anyone. Learned in zoning, the purpose of zoning is to make sure that one person's activity doesn't disrupt the peace and tranquility of somebody else. And this building will not disrupt the peace and tranquility of anybody, certainly not of the uniform neighbors, the adjoining neighbors.
Do you see any detriment to the extra square footage of the building, given that the lot coverage is being reduced so substantially?
It's a trade to reduce the lot coverage, and yes.
Do you see any detriment to the height, given the way the property is currently designed and in relation to the buildings behind it? Are those properties higher than this property?
Absolutely.
So the fact that this building will be higher than permitted,
As the grade goes up in the back.
the grade goes up and the properties in the street behind are at a higher grade
Yes,
than this.
yes.
And so that will
mitigate
the
a lot
height
of
deviation.
It's gonna be compliant with the general area of the buildings in the area. If you Google Earth it, you'll see that there's higher buildings, there's three-story houses in the same vicinity. There are other garages that have second levels on them, probably pre-existing non-conforming. We mapped it out on a map, if the board would like to see it, but there's a precedent of buildings in the vicinity where buildings are higher than the 15 feet. And I think the precedent's been set, it says it will blend well with the neighborhood. And cause the fact that we don't have neighbors here, if this is a disruptive thing, all the neighbors were notified to come and speak their mind if there was any objection to that, and they didn't have any.
I have no further questions.
Mr. McCullough, do you have any questions?
No questions at this point.
Mr. Church, do you have any questions?
No question.
Mr. Griffith, do you have any questions?
No.
Mr. Caulfield, do you have any questions?
Yeah. I mean, you said the residents might not have any qualms with it, but do we know if they're all residents or they're all renters that are around there? Do we know what the population of that? We don't, right?
No.
Okay.
But
so-
renters are.
Yeah, well, we
know
don't,
that.
but, renters are not necessarily do show up all the time. And, people are busy and they don't show
And
up.
renters don't get notice.
Yeah, oh, okay, didn't know that.
Yeah, renters don't get noticed.
Yeah, thank you. So just on the positive, negative criteria that you put out there, like, you're technically having like another building, two-story building in the backyard, right? That's not inherently disturbing in some sense and
Well,
some
we're
for
entitled
neighbors?
to a one-story building in the backyard. If this was a one-story building and it was under 800 square feet, it would be permissible. And
Yeah, but don't you
we'd have
get-
no variance.
But then you have the 15-foot height
Rubin-
there.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
right. But then you have,
let's
the
let-
15-foot height.
Let's let Mr. Mileto answer the question. Mr. Rubin, when you get to your summation,
Sorry.
you can
I
argue.
apologize.
I have no objection to to two-story buildings. My home in Long Valley has two-story accessory buildings. 3 of them,
How big's the lot?
8 acres.
My question to you is this, is that, I think that what's in here is that there's a 15-foot height discrepancy. It's in this code here, right? So for some reason, I feel like that 15-foot height is, the reason why it's in here is because I think when they put together the ADUs, they were just thinking of just a building for.
No parking on it.
No parking. You can't, I don't know if you can grab both. I mean, in this situation, we're trying to grab both. And, I think when you look to design this with the accessory unit, the reason why we're having such a big thing about the 24 feet being wider, I just think you took the 6 foot, 6 foot, and then that's how the width of the building was in some sense,
Right.
in that way. So I don't know, this is our first case, coming through here, and
I
we
can
have to,
tell.
yeah. I mean, there's gonna be a lot coming down the pipe. Right.
We've got a lot of
Yeah, so-
issues that need to be answered, and
Yeah.
we did our best to do a nice building. That's all I can tell you.
Okay.
The bottom line, to satisfy the client, build a reasonable unit. It's not unreasonable. The 15-foot height, as I told you, in a lot of ordinances that don't allow a second floor, they don't want living space on them in the old days. Some of the towns more progressive, like, in my opinion, Montclair. This is a great thing. I would love to see more towns have this.
Mhm.
It's an accommodation for seniors.
Mhm.
And it's a wonderful ordinance. It needs some brushing,
Okay,
but it's
Yeah.
still a good idea.
I agree with you.
That's my.
I agree with you too. Thanks, Chair.
I just, you basically followed the planner's report on this and, and including language indicating ADUs are an alternative to single-family homes. But here, we're taking an existing two-family, making it into a single-family, and putting the second unit out back. And I guess why, given what the master plan says, why is it better to take a two-family into a one-family and do the ADU. You're not adding a dwelling unit, which is what I think the ADU ordinance envisioned.
The two units that exist in the house now are minimal, too. They're one-bedroom units. The owner of the property purchased it to produce a one family for his family, a larger family than would be for one-bedroom homes. I agree, the count of dwelling units is reduced by converting that, but it's, in my opinion, when you have an owner-occupied building, it's the best use you can have. Two families always involve a tenant, and sometimes the tenant's problems. In this case, it's the owner occupancy. It's a good thing. My experience as a zoning officer, not only a planner, but as a zoning officer, one-family dwellings are very desirable to have in town to accommodate families.
But you're taking, what is the size of the existing dwelling unit on the second floor of the existing house?
Square footage or?
Square footage?
Second floor area is existing 776 square feet. And proposed is,
Well, that should say about the
Yeah.
same.
second change, right, 760 square feet.
What's the number? I heard two different numbers.
Is one number.
Tell me what the one number is.
776. 776
Thank you.
For the back,
for the second floor.
okay. It's smaller than the ground floor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's with the balcony. Deck.
We've had,
Include that bump in the back for a second.
On which building?
That's the ADU.
88?
Yeah, we're just talking about the main building.
Didn't need it. The rectangle that we designed worked fine without it. Bump out requested. It's mainly the front to store equipment like snow blowers and things that are necessary for the landlord to have.
but you're putting that bump out behind the car for the ADU unit.
It does, well, I'm sorry.
The applicant testified that the ADU parking space is going to be in front of where that bump out is. Is there a potential for conflict in terms of their pulling in too far? How is that space going to be delineated?
It's just gonna be used for the purposes it needed to be used for. That's no reason that it's an ADU unit parking spot, it doesn't take away the parking. It just provides a space for the landlord, because he's gonna have that ability to go in there. It's not gonna be a locked garage to use it for storage. Because of the triangular shape of the back of the lot, it made it convenient to bump it out.
Do you think in general that having two-story buildings, accessory buildings, keeping the lesser setbacks for accessory structures is an acceptable planning result?
That's what your ordinance says, that's what your master plan says. They
It
said
doesn't talk
that,
about two-story building. He's asking, is a two-story building in the rear of a lot like this acceptable given the height? That's his question.
correct,
The ordinance doesn't permit, it only permits 15 feet.
correct.
So he's asking, going higher, is that a good planning alternative and why?
Yes, and because it provides for garage parking. That's a better alternative than parking on the site. It's just, take a look at the lot behind us and see why you don't want on-site parking necessarily. It's a mess back there. Put the cars in the garage, keep them good, they're valuable. Today, cars, you buy a house for it. It used to be able to buy a house for a car for.
Are there members of the audience who have questions for this witness?
Excuse me, Chair, will the audience have a?
As soon
opportunity
as
to make
we
comments?
determine whether there are any members who have questions. Ms. Avery, no questions, or?
Yeah, I don't understand how you come to the conclusion that it's a benefit to allow a larger building than the code permits.
Because the benefits outweigh any detriment. There's no detriment to this building. It doesn't hurt anybody.
The height, but the town, the zoning code is written in order that the town has a certain type of appearance. And so when you have a building that doesn't meet the height restriction, then it doesn't conform with any other building in town, right? Because
That's
there's,
not true.
then what buildings in town
There are many
that have,
two-story. Answer? Or you won't talk? There are many two-story garages in the city of Montclair. And they were there prior to the ordinances. And I can't say which ones they are, how many there are, but you did take a look at it on Google Earth, and you'll see in that neighborhood in particular, there's a lot of two-story
I think
detached garages.
it would be helpful to know exactly which properties in that neighborhood have a two-story garage.
I did not do a comprehensive
So that's my
evaluation of that.
question,
Okay.
is how many of the properties in that neighborhood have a two-story garage?
Okay, any other questions from members of the audience? Are there any members of the audience who have any comments, testimony, statements concerning the application? Mr. Scott's come forward and be sworn in.
Mr. Scott, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes, I do.
State your name and address.
William Scott, my address is 23 Cedar Avenue, Montclair, and I also own rental property at 382 Orange Road in Montclair as well. Okay. I'm also a member of the Montclair Housing Commission, and I'm also a member of the chair of the Montclair NAACP Housing Committee. The Montclair Housing Commission had worked on the ADU ordinance for over 10 years. The last version of the ADU went beyond and added some additional options to build over garages, some other options are on the table. Living at 23 Cedar Avenue, my neighbor built an ADU over top of a two-car garage. And that's within the 4 quarters in the neighborhood. I know of other two-car garages in the vicinity that probably could have the opportunity to be converted to an ADU. I know the family. The family is a well-established family in the township. They've been in the township a number of years. They send their children to the public school system. They're upright citizens of the neighborhood. I know the tenant that's going to benefit from the ADU if this opportunity is approved. It's a hard-working neighborhood. This ADU would add to the character of the neighborhood. And I think that's something that's very important in the township of Montclair. We talk about the character of the neighborhood, but we also need to talk about the character of the people that are trying to stay in the community. And this ADU, it might be a little bit larger, but I think the number of ADUs that have come before the Board of Adjustment, this may be the first one, but I've seen a number of them go before the Board of the Planning Board. And there has been some adjustments, of course, but I think from an opportunity standpoint and the amount of development that has taken place on that particular street and even behind that street, this is a very, very modest build and opportunity to add, convert a one-family house, a two-family house to a one-family house, which is really a benefit to the family because they don't want to move. They're going to provide additional space for their family. And the ADU provides additional options to support the income and pay for the new building. So I think it's a great opportunity. I come from a family of 11 children. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. Matter of fact, it was a 2-bedroom apartment. We took the living room and we made it into a bedroom, so we had a 3-bedroom apartment. We had 1 bathroom, okay? I don't think there were too many fights over the one bathroom because, you know, everyone was kind of healthy, clean, and we went to school and we took care of each other. Yes, it would be nice if there were multiple bathrooms and things of that nature, but this is a very, very well-planned, very tight. We're not talking about big bedrooms and things of that nature. This is a minimal development, converting a two-family house to a one-family house and adding an ADU over top of the garage. I couldn't think of a better situation for the family, the possible tenant that's going to live in the ADU. And it sends a message to the community and also the township of Montclair that we are serious about building ADUs in the township. It's going to be very tight. Some of the neighborhoods are smaller property. Some of them are very large. I think the gentleman said he has 3 ADUs on 8 acres. Well, you know, we don't have 8 acres. If we had that amount of room, we'd be building, that's the equivalent of Lackawanna Plaza, matter of fact. So, you know, I think it's a great opportunity. I would really like to see this move forward. And again, I know that the Housing Commission has worked very hard with the planner, Janet Talley, to come up with an ADU ordinance that is beneficial across the board. There's some tightening and some changes that need to be made, because I would think over the last 10 years, there may have only been a dozen or less than a dozen ADUs granted in the township of Montclair. And I think that speaks to we probably need to make some changes to provide a better opportunity across the board for other families that would like to stay in town and take advantage of an ADU configuration. Thank you.
Any other members of the public with comments on the application?
Yes.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
Yes.
Just state your name again.
Sarah Avery.
All witnesses must be sworn under the municipal land use law.
I don't think you swore.
I did.
We did.
All right, I guess I wasn't paying attention. So one of the comments is that, you know, there's no one here from the neighborhood tonight. And then the other comment was renters don't get notice. And boy, we really see that when we look at the 17 applications that came before the zoning board in this particular neighborhood, Mission, New, Washington, Wheeler. There were 17 applications, and between those 17 applications, there were 57 variances granted. And none of those 17 properties are affordable for anybody who used to live in that neighborhood. And even people who live in other areas of the South End, myself included, no one who lived in town, grew up in town, has family in town, could live in any of those, well, there are actually 18 different properties covered by those 17 applications. And so the question is, you know, I don't mean to be disparaging at all about your plan.
Thank
you. But my concern is that this particular neighborhood has been, you know, picked over, you know? It's been picked over. And all the, you know, the old neighborhood is gone, essentially. You have properties here which range, the monthly rents range from $3,850 per unit to $6,100 per month per unit. And affordability, you know, the benchmark for affordability is that your rent should not exceed 30% of your income. So in order to live, for example, at 79 Mission Street, you would have to have income of $198,000 per year. To live on Washington Street, you'd have to have income from $198,000 a year to $240,000 per year. Now, there's a 6971 Mission Street, which is two buildings. One is 2 units, maybe the other is 2 units as well, but one person bought the 2 units, I guess. Combined, 6971 Mission Street sold for over $2.6 million. So granting bulk and setback variances have actually irrevocably changed the character of these neighborhoods, Mission, New, Washington, Wheeler, and the adjacent streets. And I also would like to point out for the record that at those 17 application hearings, there was no public comment whatsoever. And that is why I am here tonight, to speak for the residents of that neighborhood.
Mr. Rubin, as you notice, we are only 5. We thought, beginning of the day, we were gonna be 7, but we didn't quite make it to 7 here, so what do you wanna do?
I want to speak to my client.
Okay. We'll let you do that.
Thank you. May I have a couple minutes?
Yes,
All right, we'll step out. Thank you.
it's not easy turning off the,
Yeah, I just want to ask you something, so.
Need more information.
What's that?
I do not like
Just be careful, you're still on,
the sides.
The microphones
you're
are
still
on.
on microphone.
The microphones are on.
Keep going. Do that.
Yeah, I hear you.
I did get your email.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Next time I'll put my last name in big little.
It's just they get like lost in Outlook sometimes. I'm just like, if I get any one
Yeah.
after that, I'm like, I'll check next time before I call.
Oh, it's first.
I did go back and check, because sometimes I think I've
I
pressed
know,
send,
I hear
you know,
you.
and I
We're
discovered
just
that I
doing it so
didn't.
often now. It's like every 2 weeks, I'm like, are you guys coming?
Yeah, yeah.
You set a standard. Yeah, this is what you do.
I wouldn't mind seeing a law change, but I don't know, it's change. Your thing where change law requirements.
Are you finding this interesting? I mean, this job? Yeah.
I'm learning a lot.
That's good.
Stayed for a long time.
Yeah, we hope you don't run away from us.
Must be the
It's been our experience that after we drag the secretary through 2 or 3 unnecessarily elongated meetings in which sometimes I'm also responsible for them, but then they run away.
I hear, you know, there's just a lot of names of like, oh, and then this person was here, and then this person was here.
They're all nice people too,
Yeah,
they're all
yeah.
nice people.
They're all doing well.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
We'll be here till May. I mean,
They all had different excuses too. They're getting married, they're having a baby, they were having they came up with very clever excuses for why they needed to get out of town.
PR, you know?
I mean, I think.
now's the time to do
Why?
it.
Oh, no, we're taking a short
Just
break.
set some standard.
Are we still on?
You might be still on.
She's still on.
I finally was able to join.
I mean, I scratched through all these things under here myself, but I think
Hmm.
How much longer? I'm not sure.
Hard to say.
Toss up. Have we heard anything from Mr. Moore?
What?
Have we heard anything from Mr. Moore?
No, not as to, you know, I think he's been telling it, he's not telling it, that it's got enough.
It's okay.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know the rules. I'm
Then
learning
fine,
on the fly, sorry.
you know. Because I know it hasn't been a year.
Yeah, yes.
And
No one seems to resign.
Huh?
No one seems to resign.
Oh, no. Oh, they just disappear. No, they just disappear, that's all.
Interesting. Something I would think about doing.
I'm not teaching this. But I actually read through all of those.
Okay, good.
Had considered my own situation. And I do, if we decide to get discover actually. And have you decided? And it is, I do think it should be there. And I see that as one of our recommendations. Moving forward to the zoning board, I can make all kinds of sense. That's great.
Are you still practicing?
Yeah, I work in the city, or any other.
Just wait till we get to know we're back on the.
Yeah, absolutely. Back on?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering if we could hear from Ms. Casme as to the planner's comments before the hearing closes. Do you normally do that? Or do you, because she was sworn in, and that's the only reason I
Well,
asked.
that's only if there was a board member asked her a question.
Okay. Otherwise, you
She
just
doesn't
rely on the report.
That's
Right.
Okay, all right, thank you. I didn't know, some different towns do it different ways. I think that we're going to request an adjournment based upon the comments that we've heard from the board, and have the opportunity perhaps to have 7 voting members here, and to go back and reflect upon those comments and see whether there's any reasonable changes that can be made to the design that might at least mitigate to some extent the comments that were made.
Okay. So for members of the public, this is being carried to the October 17th meeting. I know that's that's a very popular meeting date, as it turns out.
The 16th.
Right, 16th.
Yes, the 16th.
There will be no further notice. We will alert you that there will be 7 eligible members at that meeting, and if not, we will carry it to, it'll end up being carried till December. Because we're,
Okay, I mean, I don't have obviously much testimony left. I'm going to do some redirect planner, and that's really going to be the extent of it unless we come back with a revised plan. And that's what we need to determine.
right, if you could let
I
the
will.
planning office know, so
And
we
we'll
can
get them in
figure out,
advance.
it's a very popular meeting date due to people who should have been on tonight, not being on tonight. It's no fault of viewers, and to some extent, you will benefit by your being here, but there are some realities of that meeting. We had another major application that was carried that will definitely take a lot of time, because I suspect they have totally redone their plans. I may be wrong, but knowing the attorney and everyone else involved, I'd be very surprised if they didn't basically be starting anew. Okay, so this is being carried until October 17th. 16th. Mental block. There'll be no further notice. The agenda will be posted roughly a week in advance, so you'll know where it is on the agenda.
And we should know by then whether we have 7 voting members anyway.
Right,
And
and
so it may
we will
not
let
even
you
be on
know.
that agenda.
And if it's not, we will carry it and announce the date at that hearing for the members of the public who are here, one of whom I suspect will be here for one of the other applications on the agenda that night. So,
And Mr. Rubin, you'll consent to an extension of time for the board to act until then?
Absolutely, I waive all constraints. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you, board members.
Thank you.
We'll see you next month. Hopefully.
I'll seemingly see you next week. Hopefully quickly, but
Oh, I'm gonna see you next
Thursday.
Thursday, in person no less.
In person, yes.
Can I ask you off the record whether that was resolved?
We're waiting to hear back from Mr. Gassion. I'm hoping it is. He's hoping it is.
I'm hoping it
It's
is.
the client problem on both sides.
Shown, quiet, client problem.
Okay, we have before board members run away, we have the annual report. I also, well, I don't want to spend much time in October. I do think I would like input for more members of the board. I have a couple of comments. One is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you, guys.
On number 1, where you have a blank and
Yes.
I don't remember, but can you, there would have been an exhibit at that hearing that I'm hoping is in the file that would have marked what the existing uses along the west side of Grove Street is that would,
This is for the changes, right?
yeah. The first change, there's a blank and, I'll just leave it as,
Okay.
I'm hoping there's an exhibit that says, 3/4 of the property were whatever, and that would logically lead to how the zone should be changed. On number 3, I would like to broaden this to include Maple Avenue, Fulton, Miller, Hartley, and Wheeler, and have the end, instead of with new houses, just see how, if it should continue to be redeveloped, because that's the reality of what we're dealing with, and generally not getting new houses, but getting expansions of existing. And then number 15, which is what we had tonight, I think this came from the planning office, not from us, because we hadn't had one of these. I have mixed feelings. The 800 square feet is whether you view it as a 20 by 30 building or a 24 by 33 and a third foot building, particularly the R2 zone, that's a big building, a big footprint, that, I don't know, I understand whether the 24 feet is what makes sense, but I'm not sure where we want to go and just go from an ordinance that says 300 to 800 to you get to do 800. Yes?
So last 6 months ago, 8 months ago, this summer, I have an R1 house, and I scratched through the permeable pavement issue, and I scratched through the requirements of the of the ADU for my own home. Looked at all the setbacks. I designed an 800 square foot unit in the backyard. It, complied in all counts. And then I found the 24 by 24 and I redesigned it. And it's kind of disappointing. Although it's, you go from, I think it's 576 square feet. I can't do math in my head that quickly, but 24 by 24.
576.
Yeah. To 800 sounds like a minor, it's not that much, but it makes a big difference when you lay it out. So when I laid it out, you go from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom. You get a 12 by 24 living dining area in the front, you get a bedroom in the back with a bathroom and room to put a closet and some mechanical space. But with the 800, you can squeeze in 2 bedrooms back there. And I personally think the 800 is more reasonable. It costs a heck of a lot of money to pay somebody to go back there and start putting in new foundations and come up from scratch. And, I found the 24 by 24 to be a limit personally.
But you're limited to 3 rooms.
Yeah,
Not
but they
counting
don't
the
count
kitchen,
kitchens
and
and
bathroom.
things like that, or bathrooms, so even in, if I had 2 bedrooms and a front living dining area, that's just one big open space, I got 3 rooms. Closets and bathrooms. So,
It's,
anyway, that was just my perspective. Obviously, I'm a homeowner with my own selfish intent, but it didn't, there's no bulk change, I have a garage right there 3 foot off the property line. Sure, I'd love to be able to put something up on top of that thing, but the bulk impact on my neighbors is, not insignificant. I didn't even conceive of that as, I know you.
we're not going to discuss that further.
that's
That
interesting.
seems to be the issue.
Yeah.
Anyway, so sorry I brought it up, but anyway, I wanted to share my perception or my experience of having dug into this myself.
Thank you.
For you to consider.
The I don't know, and I guess, even on, this is awkward to discuss because even the 24 feet is before us, so, let's get other input at another meeting. Does anyone else have any, I have one other thing I want to discuss, but anyone else have anything else they either want to add or modify or delete of what's here?
It was just an observation. I noted that the first comment that you had on one, but I was just looking at the summary of applications. I was frankly surprised that we've only denied one.
Yeah, one of the things, I keep saying
Just
this
didn't feel
every
correct.
year, and it keeps not happening, which is frustrating. There are a number of instances where they come in requesting 4 bulk variances, and we approve 2 and deny 2, and that never shows up in here. Or sometimes it's they withdraw one, but they withdrew it because they knew they were gonna be denied. And this creates an impression that you come in here and you're approved,
Yeah.
and which is highly misleading.
Yeah, it is.
Not gonna ask you to go back and things you were not here, but going forward, if we could, in future years, note.
And what was originally proposed and what the revised proposal was, and you can indicate something was withdrawn, setback was increased, or whatever, so.
Yeah, that it's otherwise you get the impression we're here as a rubber stamp, which would surprise a number of applicants who have been here. So, we'll try this next time, but, you know, if you have comments, if you could send them in, because we're not gonna have a lot of time unless a lot of applicants don't proceed.
It's really possible, because they're all Alan's applications.
But, you know, the one on the corner of Wheeler and Woodland is
Yeah.
not gonna be quick. And unless
It's
that
not gonna
doesn't
be quick.
proceed, and there will be public there.
There will be a lot of public.
I suspect. Okay. The one thing that I don't have a full solution for, but bothered me starting with the tree clearing on Woodman Field, but also the house we just did on Mountainside Park Terrace where they cleared virtually everything and then built, and we were kind of stuck. We were stuck in a lot of ways that I'm still not happy about as to when the infinity pool was the decision to proceed, and because they kept saying, well, we have to do it because this is where we put this door and this is where we put the patio and this is where we put the deck, and
They dictated.
but I, you know, the existing tree removal ordinance doesn't deal with the situation where the applicant wants to build, but he doesn't want to be confronted with some, you know, whether it's this board or the planning board, saying, well, can you move things over to save these trees? You know, that kind of approach, just, well, they're gone. And I, you know, the things I've been thinking of are, if you apply within two years of a tree removal, that there's a fine for doing that. However you want to do it, there are a couple ways you could do it. If another way is to limit the number of trees, you know, the ordinance has an exception now for, you know, sick, dying, et cetera, trees. But it really doesn't otherwise limit. You have to plant more trees. But, you know, in a lot of these instances, I think both Mountainside Park Terrace and Woodman Field are examples. You know, you have 100-year-old trees, and it's going to take a very long time before you get something equivalent to that. I will continue to think, but I would like to do something because I think it's a matter of time before more people planning to do things on their property are going to say, you know, I think, you know, we say, well, do that. I mean, we have applications where they're trying to save the trees, and, you know, which is probably the more typical, but I think there are people who say, well, they might want to save this tree, so I'll cut it down and then I'll build where I want to build.
Currently also a big topic with Historic Preservation Commission is proposing a shade tree commission. Supporting that.
Wasn't there an ordinance in town where you take a tree down, you put a tree on?
Yes, but you don't have to.
There, you don't have to do it on your property.
Well, okay, I think starting off you do. I think you can say, I don't have room, but it's the, you know, I'll use Mountainside Park Terrace as the example. I mean, they cleared virtually everything on the lot, and they are willing to put up the trees, but it's not gonna replace what's there
What they
in
are
terms of,
destroyed.
you know, it's not providing the root structure for stormwater control that would be there. It's not, you know, it's that lot. I'm sure they'll plant the right number of trees, but that lot is never going to, you know, 50 years from now before it'll look like what it did before they demolished the house and cleared it. you know, avoiding us having a say in something we, you know, frequently have a say as to, you know, we've moved garages or we've let people have a justification variances for garages to not impact tree roots, but we've also, you know, tried to do it to minimize impact on tree roots. And if they decide they don't want to deal with that, take a little bit, you know, cut it down first and apply 2 months later and say, it's gone. Yeah, there was a nice tree there. Let me think about that, and you know, everyone else should think about it. I'd say, you know, it is one of the features of the town, having nice tree coverage, and most residents are sensitive to that, but some are not. Okay. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You get 4 weeks off.
Oh,
It's like a vacation.
Really does feel like.
then we're gonna be sitting here.
A couple of tough